Guys, we are only a couple of short days away from the Google I/O event on May the 10th that will hopefully fully answer our questions about the Google Pixel Fold. But that's not going to stop me from speculating and perhaps ruminating one last time. In this video, we're going to talk about a handful of ways the Pixel Fold, a phone, a tablet, a foldable, that I am extremely excited about, how that device could possibly be a letdown for me. Yes, there are ways that the Pixel Fold could fail for me. Now, I'm not talking about everybody, right? Everyone's going to have their own proclivities, their wants, their needs. But for me, these are the things that if Pixel Fold does incorrectly or fails to do, would make it a bit of a letdown for me. Let's start off with the first one, the most obvious one, and that is by having a camera that is not better than the Z Fold device. Now, I don't need the Pixel to be just as good. I need it to be better than the Z Fold, because a lot of people will tell you that the Z Fold camera just isn't very good. Now, I do tend to disagree with that. I think it's actually quite a solid camera setup. We've become extraordinarily spoiled by these cameras. But that being said, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I'm carrying my Z Fold, that I don't pick up this thing and wish that it had the camera of the S23 Ultra, or that it had the camera of the Pixel 7 Pro. And that's what I want out of the Pixel Fold. If it is only as good as the Z Fold, well, that's not going to pull me off of the Z Fold towards the Pixel Fold. Now, is it? If they're the same, who cares? It needs to actually be better. Now, we do have some reason to believe that's going to be the case. First off, it's a Pixel, so it's going to have that wonderful Pixel software. I already think that that's going to give it a big advantage. We also have the hardware itself. We know what this is going to be. It's a 48 megapixel sensor with a couple of 10.8 megapixel sensors running an ultra wide, which is probably going to be fine, but then also running a 5x periscope telephoto zoom. So that to me means it should have a hardware advantage on primary and telephoto, and a general software advantage as well in terms of processing. So this should, on paper, be the case. But again, if they fail to get there in practice, because again, people talk down about this camera, but it's really pretty doggone good, that would be a pretty big letdown to me. How about another one? This thing, the Z Fold, has an ability that a lot of the other tablets simply don't have. It can not just fold, but it can be left in various different orientations or postures. I don't know how we'd properly say this, but basically the hinge is stiff enough that it can do what is called flex mode. It can be held open at effectively any angle, and that allows you to do some interesting things, right? We just got astrophotography mode on here. How cool is it to take a 4-minute exposure of the night's sky and those beautiful stars without needing a tripod, because you have your tripod. You can simply set the device up like that. The camera app takes note of that and changes things around, and you have your own tripod in your camera system built in. Flex mode is very, very good, and it's very cool for certain things like that. Maybe you're watching a YouTube video, right, where you could leave it up in flex mode. You've got your own kickstand built right into the device. The Pixel Fold absolutely needs to have flex mode, but not just flex mode. It needs to have software that supports that type of orientation properly. Just being able to have your hinge at different angles is useless if the software does not properly take advantage of that. And while we're talking about software properly taking advantage of things, let's talk about my third way that the Pixel Fold could be a letdown for me, and that would be insufficient tablet software and tweaks. Android is not known for being particularly good in the tablet form factor. A lot of apps don't even allow you to be open in the landscape orientation. I'm talking about apps like Instagram that require additional software on your phone to allow it to be forced into landscape orientation. Of course, the Pixel Fold does not open up into portrait orientation. It opens up into landscape orientation, which means that some of those apps are going to potentially force you to then turn your device once you've launched them. We've seen this on some other foldable devices. This absolutely has to be addressed. The Pixel Fold must enable across all apps the ability to open into landscape orientation, but even more than that, it also has to give us the ability to resize apps as needed to better function in landscape orientation. Again, using Instagram as an example, if you don't give it bars on the side, letterboxing, this app stretches all the way across both screens on the Z Fold and is effectively unusable. But with the Z Fold, you can letterbox it. You can change it to 4:3 or 16:9. I believe those are the two. And the app becomes usable when rotated into landscape orientation. If the Pixel Fold does not do these two things, one, force rotation, two, allow us to letterbox apps to better work in any orientation, those would both be big problems. Now, of course, we're going to be getting that Android 12L taskbar down below, and we're going to be able to drag apps off that taskbar to split screen. But I'd also like to see floating apps, right? Let us drag an app into the middle and have a floating one, just like we can on the Z Fold. I actually use the floating app almost as much as I use split screening on the Z Fold. It's very, very useful. And the last way, number 4, that the Pixel Fold could potentially be disappointing or a letdown to me will be in terms of the battery life. So with the Z Fold 4 already, I think we have battery life that's okay. It's definitely not the best in the world. Right now, my battery is sitting at about 76%. And I've had about an hour and 30 minutes of screen on time. So that's put me on pace for about 6 hours total. That's pretty good. It's definitely not anything in the range of the S23 Ultra, but it's definitely pretty solid. And with the Z Fold 5, we're likely to be making a move to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which is going to provide some additional, let's call it fuel efficiency, like we saw on that S23 Ultra, where the battery stayed the same size, but the battery life got considerably better. Expect to see the same thing on the Z Fold 5. What about the Pixel Fold? Well, we're going to be using the Tensor G2, the same one as in the Pixel 7 Pro, which, with its 5,000 milliamp hour battery, did pretty well in terms of battery life. It's not in the same category as the S23 Ultra, but it's definitely fairly solid. Now, the Pixel Fold is also rumored to have a 4,800 milliamp hour battery, so I think we might be right in the same ballpark of the Z Fold 5. So the Pixel Fold probably has a less efficient processor, but a physically larger battery. So I think at the end of the day, they're going to be close, but there is part of me that is worried that it's going to end up being worse than the Z Fold 5, just because of how impressed I've been of that Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 in this S23 Ultra. I am extremely excited to see what it's able to do inside of the Z Fold 5. I don't think we're going to have bad battery life, but, I mean, look, it's a big screen. And like I said, the 7 Pro had good battery life, but it also had a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. So we're actually going to be smaller than the Pixel 7 Pro. So might that battery life be worse than the Pixel 7 Pro because of this big screen? I think that's definitely possible. 4, 5, 6 hours of screen on time probably should be your best expectation for the Pixel Fold. Any less than that, if we're getting 5 or less, I'd say we've got a little bit of a problem, a little bit of a disappointment there for the Pixel Fold. Like I said earlier, though, these are just my 4. What are the ways for you that the Pixel Fold might be a little bit of a letdown if they fail to capitalize on or fail to do those particular things? Guys, let me know in the comments down below. Definitely be here for the live stream on May the 10th, where we're going to hopefully have a lot of these questions answered when the Pixel Fold is fully unveiled. Guys, I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.